Welcome to a class in petrology. Today we will see something about the classification of igneous rocks. A rock is a naturally occurring and coherent aggregate of one or more minerals, or minerals and glassy matter, or glass alone. For example, if we have a rock like granite, it will have entirely minerals only, whereas a rock like obsidian will be made up of glassy material. From school days, we have studied that there are three major types of rocks: igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. Igneous rocks are the primary rocks from which other rocks have been formed. Sedimentary rocks are products of the disintegration and decomposition of igneous or metamorphic rocks. Similarly, we find that metamorphic rocks are those rocks which are formed by change in pressure temperature conditions when igneous and sedimentary rocks are subjected to changes. For a formal definition, we will see igneous rock as a type of rock that is formed through the cooling and solidification of lava or magma. Magma is a melt seen inside the earth. It is a concept. Nobody has seen a magma. It is inside the earth, it is a molten material, and when it comes out through openings in the form of volcanoes on the surface of the earth, it becomes lava. So, magma and lava, they are almost the same, except that when a volcanic eruption takes place, the gases escape from a magma and it becomes a lava. Why we need a classification of igneous rocks? As you can see that there are more than 1,000 varieties of igneous rocks named by different geologists, petrologists. So, we cannot study each and every variety of igneous rock. Naturally, we have to classify these rocks. Classification of igneous rocks helps in distinct identification to make sure that geologists all over the world refer to a given rock type by the same name. That is, if I call a rock as a granite, all the other people in different parts of the world should understand that rocks having similar property should be called as granite. So, you should not call a granite as a rhyolite. So, classification is a must for such sort of definite identification. Moreover, when you have a large population, we have to study them systematically. So, systematic study is made possible with the help of classification. Similarly, we can compare rocks collected from different parts of the world using this classification. So, altogether all these things results in better communication among petrologists all over the world. As you can see, when a large population of rocks are there, different people from different parts of the world have tried to classify them on several different aspects. These aspects can be summarized into 5 categories. One is based on the depth of origin of igneous rocks. The second one is mineralogy. The third one is texture. Together, we will say that second and third, we will call them as petrographic characters. The fourth one is chemical composition, and the fifth one, chemical composition and mineralogy. The first one, let us see one by one. Based on depth of origin of the rock, we will have mainly 2 different classes, but the first class itself is divided into 2 types, which is called as plutonic. Plutonic rocks or plutonic igneous rocks are formed at great depths, and they are characterized by coarse grains, larger grains. They are formed under high temperature pressure conditions. The best example is granite, whereas the second category among the intrusive rocks, which we call it as hypabyssal rocks, they are formed at intermediate depths, and these have undergone two types of cooling, and this results mostly in what is called as a porphyritic texture, which we will discuss in detail when we see the classification under textures. So, as I said, plutonic and hypabyssal rocks together, igneous rocks together, are called intrusive rocks. Hypabyssal rock is exemplified by dolerite. The second major category is called extrusive rock, which is otherwise called volcanic rocks. They are formed at the surface from volcanic eruptions, and these rocks are characterized by fine grains or glassy matter, or a combination of these two. In fact, among the igneous rocks, the volcanic rocks or the extrusive rocks are the most extensive one. We have in India the Deccan Plateau, mainly made up of these volcanic igneous rocks. The best example for volcanic igneous rocks is basalt. Another example is obsidian. Here we have samples of intrusive igneous rocks. Here you have an intrusive igneous rock, light colored intrusive igneous rock shown in the figure, collected from a site from California in the United States of America. This is another type, another picture which shows both plutonic rocks and hypabyssal rock. On the sides you have granite, which is a plutonic rock. At the center, the dark colored one is dolerite. Both the picture is again from an area in the United States of America. This is a sample of volcanic eruption. When the lava cools, this cooled lava gives rise to volcanic rocks. Let us see what are there in an igneous rock. What type of minerals are there in igneous rocks? Mainly three types of minerals are present in igneous rocks. They are called essential minerals, accessory minerals, and secondary minerals. What are these essential minerals? Primary minerals found in appreciable amount, these are called as essential minerals. Primary minerals means those minerals which are directly formed from the magma. For example, in a granite, we have quartz and feldspar as essential minerals. Accessory minerals are those minerals which are again formed directly from the magma, but they occur in very small amount. Secondary minerals, on the other hand, are formed due to the alteration of primary minerals. That is, even before the final consolidation takes place of the magma or lava, when the primary minerals are changed due to different volatiles, there comes the formation of secondary minerals. For example, we have minerals like biotite, chlorite formed from pyroxenes and amphiboles. So, we use the igneous minerals for naming the essential minerals for naming the igneous rocks. For example, granite is made up of alkali feldspar and quartz. So, these two are the essential minerals in granite, whereas a basalt is made up of calcic plagioclase and clinopyroxene. Now, we will see classifications which are based on mineralogy. Mineralogical classifications are based on the mineralogical composition of the igneous rocks and the percentage by volume of essential minerals present in the igneous rocks. The volume percentage of any mineral is known as its mode. Mode means the actual percentage, volume percentage of different minerals that are seen in an igneous rock. In fact, modal analysis is done by preparing the thin section of igneous rocks and studying them under the petrological microscope. Based on mineralogy, several classifications are available. In these classifications, the mode is used. We have to distinguish between mode and norm. Norm is the mineralogy of a rock based on calculations made from chemical analysis of the igneous rock. So, we have to distinguish between mode and norm. Norm we will discuss later. Based on mineralogy, as I said, several classifications are seen, which include the classifications based on the percentage and type of feldspaths. Feldspaths means there are alkali feldspaths present, plagioclase feldspaths present. Using these classifications are made presence or absence of quartz, feldspaths, pyroxenes and olivine. Pyroxenes and olivine are ferromagnesium minerals, whereas quartz and feldspaths, they are silica rich minerals. Why these minerals are used in classification is because we find that feldspaths, quartz, then pyroxenes and olivine, they are the most common and abundant minerals in the igneous rocks. In fact, you will find that the most abundant mineral in the crust of the earth is feldspaths. This is followed by quartz. In the third classification, it is the percentage and type of dark minerals that are present in an igneous rock. Dark minerals means ferromagnesium minerals, minerals which are made up mainly of iron and magnesium. Here there is a classification given by Shand and Holmes. In fact, the first classification was given by Shand, which was later again modified by Holmes, and in this classification they have applied the saturation principle. The main factor that they have considered is the incompatibility of silica minerals with feldspathoids and olivine. Incompatibility of feldspathoids and olivine are done. It is done because feldspars and silica silica minerals are formed from rocks which from the magma which is richer in silica, whereas olivine is formed and also feldspathoids formed from a silica poor magma. There are three main groups of rocks in this classification. They are called as oversaturated, saturated and undersaturated igneous rocks. Oversaturated means there we have minerals represented by free silica, quartz or other silica polymorphs like coesites, stishovite and all are present in this oversaturated rock. The best example being granite. Saturated means there is no free quartz or feldspathoid or olivine in these rocks. The example suggested is diorite, cyanite is also another example. The third category is called undersaturated rocks which contain feldspathoids and or olivine. For example, nepheline cyanite, olivine diorite, they are examples of such rocks. Still another classification is based on the color index. Here we consider the color of the igneous rock. The color of the igneous rock is based on the amount of dark minerals, the percentage of dark minerals present in these rocks. Here we find four different types of rocks. They are leucocratic, mesocratic, melanocratic and hypermelanic rocks. Leucocratic is a light colored rock. Again, the best example is granite. We can have rhyolite also under this category. Mesocratic means it contains about 34 to 66 percentage of dark minerals, and we have medium color for such rocks. They are diorite, cyanite, they are examples. Melanocratic means they are dark colored rocks. Norite, gabbro, these are examples of such rocks which are rich in ferromagnesium minerals. Hypermelanic rocks means they contain very high amount of 90 to 100% of dark minerals, and these rocks are very dark and they are heavy also. So, the example is peridotite. Light colored rocks have low specific gravity, whereas medium colored have medium specific gravity, and dark colored have, again dark colored rocks have higher specific gravity. Very dark colored hypermelanic rocks have very high specific gravity. Now, we will go for a standard classification which is being accepted by geologists all over the world. This is called IUGS classification. This IUGS classification, the full form of IUGS is International Union of Geological Sciences. Before 1968, there were hundreds of classifications available. So, people were so much confused. And after the formation of IUGS, they decided to go for systematic study of igneous rocks. For that, in 1968, Strikesen gave a proposal. This proposal was accepted in the IUGS conference in Prague in 1969. In 1968, and by 1969 they have started the work. They appointed a subcommission for the systematic study of igneous rocks and proposed a classification. The subcommission established 10 principles for the classification of igneous rocks. Based on this, they have arrived at a classification which is more or less accepted by petrologists all over the world. For arriving at this classification, they have the 10 points they have considered, 10 principles that they have considered. The first one is that they have to use only descriptive attributes. Descriptive attributes means attributes which can be seen, which can be directly seen by the geologist with the help of with naked eye, or with the help of a petrological microscope, or with a hand lens. Then the second one is that they have to use actual properties of the mineral, or actual attributes of the rocks for classification. It means that you cannot make some inference and you cannot say that based on this inference we are classifying these igneous rocks. That is not possible. You have to use only what is present in the rock. The third one is that this rock name should be accepted by all geologists. And the fourth one should be acceptable to all geologists. I will say the fourth one is that the current terminology for names of rocks should be used. We should not use obsolete terms for naming a rock. The fifth one is that when we define different classes of igneous rocks, different groups of igneous rocks, there should be definite boundaries separating these classes. And the sixth one is to keep the classification very simple and easy to apply. This is essentially because that the earlier classifications, many of the people did not understand the classification properly. Chemists used classifications, mathematicians tried to classify the rocks, geologists themselves used classifications. They were not understood by one another. So, we have to keep the classification in a very simple manner, and it should be applied. For example, if we are able to identify or discover a new rock type, we should be able to put it in the proper place in the classification. And the classifications should follow natural relations. No artificial relations should be, artificial boundaries should be brought here. Then, as I said earlier, IUGS classification, they have used model mineralogy, that is the hand specimens have been collected from the field, then thin sections have been prepared, model analysis of these rocks have been done using petrological microscope, and they have found out the actual mineralogy of the rocks. Only the model mineralogy should be applied. But there is a problem here in the sense that volcanic rocks are very fine grained or sometimes glassy. Here the problem arises because even a petrological microscope, with the help of petrological microscope, even with that we will not be able to identify the minerals. In that case we have to depend on the chemical analysis of the rock. So, that is why point 9 says, principle 9 says, if mode is not feasible, we have to use the chemistry of the rocks. And the last one is the follow the terminology of other IUGS advisory bodies. IUGS has several subdivisions and advisory bodies. So, we should not contradict the classification arrived at should not contradict the suggestions of other advisory bodies. Using these 10 principles, they have tried to, the subcommission had arrived at a classification which is followed now. It was given after deliberation for more than 10 years and after about 45 petrologists participating in these meetings. Well, these classifications are more or less accepted, as I said earlier, but there again problems are there, which will come, I will come at the last time. The classification separates and individually classifies the pyroclastic, carbonatitic, mellitic, lambrophyric and charnacitic rocks before entering the main QAPF classification for plutonic and volcanic rocks. For example, the classifications has been done for both plutonic and volcanic rocks. Among the plutonic rocks and volcanic rocks also, they have used the grain size for identifying the rocks, and based on the grain size also they have put several different types of classifications. For the classification, the model mineral proportions of the following mineral groups are made use of. They are quartz, represented by the letter Q, capital A, alkali feldspars, which include orthoclase, microcline, albite and perthite. Normally, albite is included under plagioclase, but albite with a content of less than 5% anorthite will be categorized as alkali feldspars. And the third one is called plagioclase. Plagioclase means excluding albite, in the sense that albite all plagioclase containing more than 5% anorthite will be included in that category of plagioclase. And F stands for felspathoids like nepheline, cancrinite, then leucite, calcilite, all these will come under felspathoids. And M stands for mafic or mafic ferromagnetic minerals, dark colored minerals like olivine, pyroxenes, amphibole, they will come under this category. These minerals, these major mineral groups have been used in the classification under IUGS proposal. In the absence of mineral mode, a chemical classification of total alkalis versus silica, TAS classification is used. This is especially applied for volcanic rocks, where model mineralogy is difficult to be found out even with the help of standard petrological microscopes. IUGS have come down to 297 rock names out of the more than 1500. Although I mentioned 1000 in the beginning, I mean still sub varieties are there, including that will be 1500. Now 297 categories of rocks, rock names have been proposed, and each broad category can be further subdivided and named based on mineral percentage. So, here there is an example of this IUGS classification for plutonic rocks. Plutonic rocks means phaneric rocks, when coarse grained rocks are coming under this category. Here we have the a diamond shaped figure is given here. The top equilateral triangle has at the apex quartz Q, and on the bottom A and F, and in the lower half of the equilateral triangle, here we have F feldspathoids. In this we have different shades shown. These shades indicate the position of different classes of igneous rocks. So, once we do the model mineralogical analysis, then we have to recalculate the percentage of these minerals into three major minerals, in the sense that those rocks containing less than 90% of mafic minerals will come under the QAP triangle, whereas those with quartz it will be QAP triangle. If the silica minerals are not present, if it is represented by the feldspathoids, then it will come under APF triangle. Remember that Q and A, that is silica minerals and the feldspathoids will never be found together, because quartz and other silica minerals represent silica rich magma, whereas feldspathoids represent a silica poor magma. So, we will not have Q and F in any igneous rock. So, we can go for QAP or APF triangles. Here again we have separated one triangle out of that. QAP is shown here. Here we can see the fields of different rocks from gabbro to diorite to quartz, quartz rich rock, granites are there, alkali feldspar granites are there, different fields are there. Once we have the model mineralogy, we can recalculate the mineralogy and plot the data on this diagram using a triangular graph sheet, and in this graph sheet where it falls, our plot falls, determines the type of rock that we have in our hand. For the classification of ultramafic igneous rocks, we have to use a different diagram. In this diagram, we have olivine at the apex, and on the bottom side we have orthopyroxene and clinopyroxene. Different fields are shown here for different ferromagnesian mineral rich rock. In fact, these rocks contain more than 90% of dark colored minerals. In addition to these diagrams, there are several other diagrams also coming under IUGS classification. In cases where we have volcanic rocks in which we are not able to identify the minerals as such, we depend on the chemical classification. In still another case, we have the pyroclastic rocks. During a volcanic eruptions, there are so much of materials thrown out of a volcano. So, these materials are called pyroclasts, and depending upon the type of pyroclastic materials, this which will include volcanic bombs, lapilli, ash and all, and using the proportion of these, we have a still different diagram available for classification of volcanic rocks, that is pyroclastic rocks. So, we find that several diagrams are available under IUGS classification. Remember that classification, this IUGS classification is also undergoing modification, and again there is no 100% agreement among petrologists on the use of these diagrams also, because we find that special rock types like lambrophyres, carbonatites, charnokites, and these rocks cannot be plotted in any of these diagrams. So, there is a limitation for even IUGS classification, but still there is a lot of acceptance among petrologists on these diagrams. So, we have seen a number of classifications available, still more classifications are to be discussed. We will discuss these classifications, the remaining classification, in the second part of the presentation. Thank you very much.